Nine reasons why men push good women away. We're going to dive into this topic today. And I must say, it can be confusing and painful when a man pushes you away or pushes a woman away, especially if the woman genuinely cares for him. Even promising a relationship, some men struggle with emotional closeness, leaving their partner feeling rejected and unappreciated. While every situation is unique, there are common reasons why men push women away, why men pull away. And I believe it's because partnership based relationships are very complicated for some of the reasons why I share. And I think this is some of the reasons why men give mixed signals. I think to some degree, we've been so conditioned to expect these partnership-based relationships, all in type of relationships where there is full enmeshment with another person, that it doesn't give room to grow in the friendship aspect of the relationship. And the hard part about this is because physical intimacy happens rather early. And the fact of the matter is, it could take months, months, and months to build the deep roots of trust. And most people aren't going to wait for that long of a period of time for that physical intimacy, because even physical intimacy can help bond a couple together as well. Now, I know in the past we waited to have sex for marriage. And by the way, it was a nanosecond the amount of time they waited, but it was a whole different era back then, particularly for people in their 20s and 30s. For those of us in midlife, and if you're in midlife, I call it after baby making years and before retirement, a significant percentage of the population in this age demographic is divorced. Roughly about 75% of singles over 45 years old are divorced. And quite frankly, many people have had 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 significant relationships. Now, let me rewind the word significant relationships. They've had relationships that have lasted 3 months or longer. Now, you're thinking, Jonathan, 3 months isn't a significant relationship. Well, that's why I had to retract it. But 3 months allows you to build time to generate feelings. I think it's called catching feelings for another person. If you've caught feelings for a person and it didn't work out, you caught feelings for another person and it didn't work out. Or maybe you had a full-blown relationship with someone that lasted a year or two, it didn't work out. This is why in many cases, a lot of couples are struggling to enter into all-in type of partnership-based relationships. But the reasons why men pull away, I think will start to make sense why partnership-based relationships, a lot of people struggle for the following reasons. And by the way, everything I'm sharing about men, I'm going to say women equally can feel these same ways about relationship, because I think we have this fantasy way of love is just going to solve everything. A man in love is going to do this, 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 and this. He's going to be this perfect person, because romantic love is all about perfection. There is no room for our human frailties, our human contradictions, our human fears. See, I'm here to draw attention, not to make an excuse, but to just draw attention to the importance of recognizing that human emotions are radically complicated. You know, we can feel two things at the same time. We can care for someone and be afraid. We can love someone and also want our freedom. We can have multiple feelings at the same time. And when we have multiple feelings, we can give mixed messages. And more importantly, when we are disconnected to ourselves, when we don't feel happy, whole within ourselves, it makes human pair bonding even more complicated when you add another person into the equation. And as I shared before, you know, relationships come with it emotional responsibility. You see, most of the time we just think about the time responsibility for a relationship, but there's an emotional responsibility of caring for another person's feelings, and having the capacity to do that can be a struggle for a lot of people for these following 9 reasons. So let's dive into reason number 1 why a man will push a good woman away. Fear of vulnerability. As I said before, opening up to someone can be very scary. Again, we can either own that, folks, we can own that opening up to another person can be very scary, or we can just live in the fantasy of how powerful love is. Love is angels singing, oh, love is sunshine and rainbows, and it's all happiness. And when a man truly loves with a woman, he's going to do this, 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 and this. Many people struggling opening heart to love. Maybe they got hurt in their past relationship. Maybe they're going through an emotion. Maybe they're going through a physical ailment in their life. Maybe they have children that are draining to some degree. I don't like saying that children are draining, but maybe they have complications with children. Maybe they have work stressors going on. When our own love cup is rather empty, it's difficult to open up to another human being. And as I said before, many people are just scared opening up because they've been hurt in the past. That doesn't make them bad people because they can't open up. Opening up emotionally to another person can be radically scary. Many of you ladies feel the same way. It's one of the reasons why many of you have duct tape on your mouth. And I know I'm saying this in jest, but many of you are afraid to open up for fear of losing a person. So you are equally as guilty of this, even though you act like, oh, vulnerability should just be so easy. Vulnerability is scary. And the fear of vulnerability is why some men push good women away. I think the second most common reason, and by the way, there is no order in these, it's just the second reason I'm sharing today is unresolved past traumas, whether it's a childhood wound or an adult wound of betrayal. Shaking our past can be very hard. Residue from our past can linger on for a long time. I'm going to share an example. It's not related to relationships, but folks, many of you know I lost a child. That pain, oh, by the way, there's a picture of Connor right there, my son who passed away. That pain never goes away. It's there. I'm able to navigate and manage it, but it's there. Well, when you are in a significant relationship that ends, that's almost like a death as well, especially if you genuinely cared for that other person. It's a death of a different sort. And by the way, I've worked on this, for my son, I've worked on it for years, navigating the trauma of that experience. And imagine a relationship. The thing is not that we want to compare what happened to me in a relationship, but whatever pain you're feeling. And by the way, God forbid you had childhood wounds growing up. Maybe you had abandonment with your parents. Maybe you had rejection from your parents. Many people haven't done the inner work. That doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them human. Very few people even have access to counseling, to coaching, to therapy. Very few people even have access, and the cost to heal can be a fortune. You could spend an absolute fortune to heal your past. So we just have to recognize that doesn't make them wrong or bad. It just happens to be, might be part of what makes them struggle to be fully committed in a relationship. Another fear, the third one, is fear of commitment. Committing to another person, fully going all in and committing to another person is scary. Partnership takes work. And I have friends who have been married for decades, and I can tell you that they're going through challenges in their marriage. And these are people happily in love, and yet they're going through challenges in their marriage, because the minute you invite another person into your life, the minute you care for another person, there's that emotional responsibility. And for some people, it's hard enough to take care of their own life, let alone navigating the feelings for another. And again, we have this fantasy that if you love them, you should just automatically care for another person's feelings, and it should just be magic fairy dust, should make it all simple. Fear of commitment is a very real thing, losing our freedom. especially for those of us in midlife. I know so many women who are actually now contemplating more casual relationships than all-in relationships because they appreciate their autonomy, they appreciate their life the way it is. In fact, many couples are opting for what's known as living together apart. If you haven't read this book by Ann Watson, it's a tiny little book. It's only about 100 pages and it's really short chapters. But you might want to contemplate this. I know so many women that are autonomous, they're sovereign beings, and they're like, you know what? I much prefer a more part-time relationship than a full all-in relationship. Because believe it or not, even in a part-time relationship, you can grow with another human being. I think we put so much pressure on all-in relationships where there's full enmeshment, whether it's living together or getting married, that many people are opting for, I call them part-time relationships, in the sense that they're not every day they're spending time with each other. They're casual but committed to one another. And I think if we start maybe adopting this for a lot of people, it will take the pressure off of the grand expectation of going all in a relationship. Number 4, low self-esteem. Maybe, by the way, I know a lot of men who are struggling right now financially. I know a lot of men, by the way, let me reframe that. I know a lot of men and women at this time in our history, we're going through a lot of financial upheaval and turmoil in people's professional life. Maybe people have health issues. Maybe they've been beaten down emotionally and their self-esteem, their confidence is down. I have a dear friend who recently lost his long-term job. And he's devastated. He's 60 years old. And he's like, the idea of going back into the workforce, I mean, to try to replace what he have, he's really scared. And his confidence level is shot. And so many people are suffering from low self-esteem. Look, this isn't easy work working on ourselves. Even though I wrote a book about, I wrote a book about called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. There's a link below to get a copy of the books I recommend. You know, filling up one's love cup is not an easy task. And by the way, my book is just a simplistic approach. But really nurturing those nooks and crannies to fill up our love cup, I go through significant periods of time where my confidence is shot for a variety of different reasons. You know, sometimes I get bullied through social media. That doesn't help at all. And as much as you can say, just have tough skin, Jonathan, you know what people say is just a projection of themselves, doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me. I'm not this strong, confident human being. I'm just using myself as an example here. And I'm a person that works on himself regularly. Imagine that person that doesn't. Low self-esteem is and by the way, I know so many women who are thirsty for love, thirsty for a relationship, and yet their self-esteem is shot. Number 5, overwhelmed by responsibilities. Hey, look at the pressures of life, as I shared before, financial struggles, family obligations, children, maybe elderly parents in assisted living facilities or I know a lot of people in the midlife demographic are so concerned about their parents that it's an extra responsibility that they weren't prepared for. And many of us have parents that don't live nearby, and it can be a real struggle to navigate this space in our life where we have our own children and we have our parents to navigate. And many people are overwhelmed with responsibilities, men in particular. Number 6, emotional unavailability. See, when a woman shows deep care, it may be uncomfortable for someone that may cause them to withdraw. As I said earlier, opening up to another human being can be rather scary. And again, we have this grand expectation, men are emotionally unavailable. Let me reframe that. Men get criticized for being emotionally unavailable, but learning how to communicate your feelings, do you realize how hard that is? I mean, I'm sorry. I know we have songs that make it seem like love is this grand thing, and we have poems that suggest love is this grand thing, and we have movies that suggest love is this grand thing. And we should just naturally be emotionally available as if it's so fucking easy. I work with women every day, and I can tell you, so many of them, I'm a safe place to communicate, and they struggle actually tapping into their feelings. And women are supposed to be more emotional. I can tell you, if that's the case and men aren't, and women struggle at this, only imagine how hard it is for some men to be emotionally available. Number 7, fear of losing independence. As I said before, there's a fear of losing our identity, our personal space and freedom the minute we begin relationship with another human being. Look at, relationships are not for the faint of heart. This is not easy stuff. And I think we should let go of the romantic fantasy of it all and recognize that. And look, ladies, I get it. Many of you frustrated men who are only in it for the sex. They only care about the sex. They only care about using you. I get it. There's a significant percentage of people in the population that are users. And I know it seems like there's very few grower builders, and there's a whole population of people who want companionship. They want connection. They want sex, but they're struggling on the inside. It doesn't make them bad people. And by the way, I know a lot of women these days, they don't want to lose their independence either within a relationship. Number 8, unrealistic expectations. If a man has unrealistic expectations of what love should be like, he might be thinking something is wrong when it's not perfect. And I know I'm guilty of this. This is probably one of my biggest hangups is I've had the fantasy expectation of the way relationships should be. And I recognize after all this work I've done, all these years I've been coaching, but more importantly, my own life experience, I've created false expectations around relationships. I'm going to be really candid. I have created such false expectations of what love should feel like. And it's created havoc in my life over the years. And because I'm a hopeful romantic, imagine those men who aren't hopeful romantics. And they have an expectation that love should just feel so wonderful, so grand, so perfect that when it's not feeling like that, they run away, they ghost, they disappear. And certainly number 9, a lack of readiness for love. See, timing can play a role in this too. Timing plays a crucial role depending on how much work a person has done in their life. And maybe they've just come off of a significant relationship and they need time to heal. I don't think we humans do enough work in being in such a good place that we can be ready for love. We oftentimes want to fill the hole within us, and we may not be ready and the timing might be off. So when a man pushes a good woman away, it often has to do with internal struggles than the relationship itself. Because relationships come with it emotional responsibility. And while some men eventually recognize their mistake and try to reconnect when they push a woman away, others continue the cycle of avoidance. And understanding these reasons can help a woman navigate relationships with greater clarity and emotional strength. The value of understanding this, if we can look at people from a heart-centered place, instead of the grand expectation that men are supposed to be this and women are supposed to be that, and this whole hierarchy way of approaching relationships. If you want to read an amazing book, I read this in one day. Read the book, If the Buddha Dated. It throws out the bullshit gender way of approaching relationship and says, how can we connect with another human being from a heart-centered place? Because the reality is today, most people hyper-focus on the entertainment of each other in the beginning of the relationship instead of actually getting to know one another at a genuine heart-centered level. Look at, I'm not giving a pass for men by sharing this. I'm just sharing with you why this might happen. This isn't even about the man. What's most important about this conversation, it's about you. Men, just like women, struggle with intimacy, with closeness, and based relationships can be scary, especially at midlife. And this is why I said earlier, casual relationships are becoming more of the norm. Part-time relationships are becoming more of the norm because enmeshment with another human being, being responsible for someone else's feelings can be rather scary. And I think we don't build enough in the early stages. I get we might rush sex too quickly and why we should do some level of vetting. But most important, and I'm coming back to you on this, this is about you being integrated within yourself. So ask yourself, do you have a fear of vulnerability? Ask yourself, do you have unresolved past traumas? I'm going to read from my notes here. Do you have a fear of commitment? Are you overwhelmed with responsibilities? Have you been emotionally unavailable? Do you have a fear of losing your independence? Do you have unrealistic expectations? And is the timing right for you? As I shared all of this, this is an invitation for each one of you to look at yourself, look in the mirror and say, am I really in a good place? Because ultimately, when you're in a good place and you find someone else in a good place, maybe you'll be lucky enough to forge one of those unique relationships that go the distance, that is juicy, delicious, and healthy and happy. But for everyone else, maybe walking before you run is the way to approach relationships. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. Did this conversation have value for you? If it did, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly and you need some coaching, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis. There's links below to get the books I recommend, to get my dating vows, to get all the, what else do I have there? Oh, my free gift and all that good stuff.